We're live.
Hello.
We're here. Hello. Hello, internet. Hello, good friends, good community. We're further into 2021. How very exciting.
So much has happened since last week.
It's already been crazy. Very intense. Woo.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it, but it's exciting.
Is it?
Well, I don't know, like in terms of being a soul in one particular incarnation, it's like, this is a crazy one. In the larger story of my soul's journey, this is one of the wilder ones. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I guess I can't be sure, but I think it's probably pretty crazy here. I don't know how other people feel, but how do you feel about it?
I don't know. I think my emotions are kind of like a roller coaster a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like it's like a big breakthrough, and then other times it's just really depressing.
Yeah.
And then it feels like, how is this ever gonna get better?
Yeah, like seeing a way out of it. Yeah. No, it's true. And we were talking about this today, like the balance that you need to have between looking into the future towards, a better outcome and generating hope, but, not doing that to the extent that you lose presence. Hello. Cosmic Origins. Hello. Which one of you is it, though? Which one of you? Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, well, because today we wanted to talk about the way morale sort of comes from politics and from spirit, and we know that people are struggling to sustain the morale right now. I see a lot of people jumping off ship and just losing hope, which is understandable. But then, people, Jace, yeah, buddy, good to see you. I see people understandably jumping ship, and then also people trying to sustain the morale,
Yeah.
Oh, it's both of you beautiful people.
Awesome.
I think it's a big challenge right now. And those of us who feel they're in a position to support morale and to keep people united and empowered really need to do that work, to speak up, because it's not everyone has that within them right now. It's a time where we have to face some doubt, some hopelessness for some people. Would you characterize the deep challenges of this as doubt or hopelessness, or both different times?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But then I would say, like, what does that bring up in me, about my experiences? Like, what does hopelessness mean to me? What does that look like? Certainly not the same as someone else.
Yeah.
And it probably is triggered by some other trauma, like usually some other experiences in life. So yeah, that's how it usually manifests for me. So I end up gaining self-knowledge.
Yes. Through the hopelessness. Yes. That's the real shit right there.
And then you find hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, kind of just feeling fully hopeless for a while.
I really like the way Osho characterizes doubt and the idea that we have to move through doubt to build trust. That doubt is something you move through. It's what you make trust out of. Excuse me. So, I find that really helpful, that when you move through doubt, you come out on the other side with trust, which is different from Osho's perspective than faith. Because from his perspective, faith is just sort of blind belief. But trust is something you built because you held your ground through doubt. You moved through it. You were present with it.
Yeah. Building the internal resilience, and the trust in yourself. I think that's sort of what it pushes me towards too. No matter what's happening outside of me, I can still go back to that.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm still working on it, but I see that that's where it's pushing me. It's pushing me to trust more in myself.
Well, we want to be free, right? This is the idea. We are fighting for freedom. And that's an internal freedom and an external freedom. But the internal freedom is like a big part of it, I think. And so this is the idea, is like, how can we be free if we do not trust ourselves, if we don't trust our own path? How can you be free if you don't trust your own life path?
Because which includes sometimes being hopeless.
Yes, exactly.
Or afraid, or
yeah.
And that's the other thing we're saying, like, this fearlessness thing. That's been kind of just driving me a little crazy. I'm like, no, I kind of like.
Okay, but let's be clear. So you're saying, because there's people that have been promoting fearlessness, be fearless right now, right? Be an example of fearlessness. So you found that to be somewhat, I don't know, inauthentic, impossible, bad idea. What were you feeling?
Sometimes, like, I know it's important to like meet our fears and just go it and see what's going on, but to, I think of it just with the children. Like, we may understand what people are saying when they say be fearless, but a kid doesn't understand that, so they might think, are my fears wrong? Like, should I bury my fears? Like, what should I do? Yeah. And so I'm very strong about saying fears are very important. They tell you a lot. They're your gut instinct. They're, they might be triggered by trauma, but it's still there for a reason. Like, you need to at least look at what fears you have and why are they arising, and if there's a reality around it. So yeah, like, that's just the fearlessness, and I get it, because there's so much that we need to move through our fears, face our fears, but that doesn't lack fear. Like, we're going to face lots of fears. That's quite...
Yes, to be without fear, I think, is the idea that you're purging yourself of fear. And maybe that's not really the right terminology for what people are actually
and I just think for the kids, they misinterpret that.
Yeah, we have to consider the innocent perspective.
Yeah, because I don't want to be passing that message on to them, that their fears are invalid or less than, or like there's something wrong with them because they have fears.
But how do we translate this for people now? Like, when we think people are living in some relatively real fears to a certain extent, like as far as instability goes, right?
Yes.
Like instability of income and safety. So how do people reconcile that fear with what we're talking about, I guess? Because, some of those are real fears. Some of them are part of that real system that we have within us.
Yeah.
Where fear has an evolutionary purpose, right?
Yeah, because there's real danger.
Because there's real danger
of losing your job. Like, I can easily say that I get messed up with fear often because of these things, where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be working. I don't know what my role is changing, and things are, stability is changing. So I think it would be completely natural for us to have that. I have it all the time. It's more about managing the symptoms. I don't know, like, and then, delving when it feels necessary, when I'm like, maybe I can pick at that fear a bit and really kind of get something more out of it, get to know myself a little bit more.
Well, you were saying that a lot of what has come up during the lockdown and the pandemic and all of this has been, hey, this is bringing up childhood stuff. So, or older things. I think the array of trauma and instability that this whole scenario has caused is probably across the board triggering a lot of people's old trauma. I mean, for real, there's just such a panoply of things to come up against.
Even if you're just watching the news and you're being pulled, like I noticed myself being pulled to emotional extremes.
Yeah.
And even watching myself, I'm like, oh, that's just energetic, what's going on. So the content that you're viewing obviously is very important for that. Knowing your limit for you, what makes sense. And because it's pretty extreme.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think even looking at it from like an adrenal perspective, that you can, if the instability of your circumstances are sort of being fed back into your system, let's say there's like not as much mindfulness as there could be around something, and so you're sort of feeding it back into your system as a reality over and over again, and then you can get something like adrenal fatigue, right? Where then you're suffering from like this sort of deeper I guess, rut that you get stuck in, but it becomes this sort of more chemical aspect of it based on that sort of. And I think there's a lot of that happening too, right? Like people not knowing their chemistry and their body's sort of patterns, and that, they get pulled into some of those things. And I know that for us, one of the major steps we took was like doubling down on wellness, like raising the standard of like, okay, how much are we taking care of ourselves right now? Because this is where our power is, right? We have all these things being taken away, all this freedom being taken away, all access to so many of our basic human rights being taken away. So where we do have power is, okay, wellness in our home, like lifestyle. What can we amp up? Rituals.
Everything you do is a ritual. How can you amplify that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
if we're looking to build morale, then some of that is about like rituals in how we like engage with each other, and rituals that we come together around. Do we have a child waking up? We might have a child waking up. Warning.
You want me to go?
I guess you have to go check it out.
Okay.
But I think the way that we form rituals with morale in mind is really important. So social media is one of the major ways we're doing that, right? We're going to social media to either seek morale right now or to try to help build morale. And that's a lot of this. That's a huge dichotomy that's occurring in the community right now. Just because of the major blows that are occurring. We have someone that many, many people understand is compromised by China, potentially about to take a seat of power that's very dangerous. But then we also have a group of alleged white hats that have been watching this very carefully all along, and people in power who well understand the threat that's occurring with communism and powers underneath communism sort of looming. So, one of the ways I've been looking at this, and I posted about this on Twitter today, was really just that we have the major driving force in terms of the Great Awakening, of this whole motion within us. The center of it is within the individual. And I found that very, very important to come back to. And that's like one of the bigger, I guess, connecting factors between the collective and the individual for me, because I'm looking at, how can I really, really make sure that I'm contributing the most to this right now? I'm really trying to find that. And it's really in my daily state that I want to move through each day in a state in a state that offers the collective something other than this sort of dense timeline that we're being coerced towards, or this feeling of darkness that we're being brought into. So it's sort of like just being a light in the darkness, really. But the feeling of it, to me, is rooted in the mundane. I've really found that uplifting the mundane, uplifting the way I engage in a moment on social media, the way I, even just setting up for this live, just making it much more ritualistic and finding more lightness and beauty in the mundane. And I've been listening to an audiobook by Thich Nhat Hanh, really, really beautiful. I believe it's called The Ultimate Dimension. And he talks about touching peace, and that we need to, through our mindfulness, through our meditations, through our daily sort of movement through the mundane, we need to make contact with peace to become nourished. And he talks about how within us there is peace and war. And about how, of course, we need to touch the war within us as well. And I find this very interesting when we consider that we're in the midst of World War III. It happens to be much more of a psychological war. It's, occurring, a woman. It's occurring, in this mental realm more than anything else. And so I think this is really, really important, because Thich Nhat Hanh talks about how if you're going to touch the war within you, if you're going to go within and confront that and make contact with that, you have to come from a place of having been nourished by your contact with peace, by your daily contact with peace. And that we can't make contact with war within us or within the world if we're not nourished by this regular relationship with peace. And this is just such a simple, beautiful way to put it. And so I've really noticed, the pull to go to social media is really intense right now to try to track the narrative and find out what the next crazy event or tweet or anything is, because it's such a fast pace right now. But we want to watch out. To what extent are we losing contact with peace? Are we nourished by enough contact with peace that we can go and make contact with the war that is ongoing? And doing this internally and externally, right? So not only should we make contact with the peace within us, because we are peaceful beings at our very, very center in our essence, but also within the world. So when we're going to social media and we're, searching through it and trying to keep up with everything and whatever, are we also maybe taking some of that time to contact peaceful content, to make contact with peace in the world, and to understand that peace is still beautiful and thriving in the world? And even though we are in a war, it doesn't negate the existence of it or the necessity that is upon us to make contact with it. So I found that really, really, really helpful. I always find it helpful to go back to his teachings. Oh, yes. Hello, Christy. It's nice to see you here. Man, this A woman thing. I want to talk about this actually, because I'm working on a project right now. I'm very, very excited that is looking at the family, the human family, the family unit more specifically, as a superorganism. And this idea that when families are allowed to thrive, that they have this incredible spiritual potential, that the way that a family can evolve spiritually together when it's a harmonious and healthy family in a multidimensional way is really, really incredible. And the reason this notion came to me was because of this ongoing war in the family unit, that through these sort of Marxist ideologies and gender politics and identity politics and all that whole school of political correct thought, there's this war on the family unit being waged, and breaking down the ways that we perceive gender is a big part of trying to destabilize our ability to form healthy families. And one of the reasons we need to be able to have an ideal of the family unit is just because as a humanity, we function off of having ideals. These are beautiful symbols for us to work with when we are using things like prayer and meditation. Having an ideal that we hold within our vision is crucial. This is how we dream. It's how we move through the world. So collectively, the notion of ideals, of archetypes in terms of the family are very important. And these are the very things that are under attack, so that we don't have a foundation to work with. But more than that, in terms of bringing it back to building morale, I really think that's a big thing that is upon families right now. And we are being forced into greater and greater isolation, and it's putting a lot of pressure on families specifically. We know that mental health in families is becoming less stable, and that makes it much harder on the children. And I really, really believe that we need to bring back our understanding of how powerful and how important the family is right now as a container to move through this darkness, and how supporting the notion of family is really, really important. And one of the ways we do that is by understanding the war on family, and that it is a concerted effort. And I think knowing that healthy families were such a threat to communism throughout history, and there's such a threat to power, this power grab by a deep state and a new world order, it means that the other end of the pendulum, right? We're right now in the midst of families becoming less and less a thing, way more children being born into sort of non-structured families with single parents, or being adopted. There's more of this occurring because the family unit is breaking down. So at this time in history, so the other end of the spectrum is families that are fully supported, fully healthy, harmonious, psychically connected through an awareness on an energetic level, right? Finding that deeper harmony. Think of how far this could really go. if families are able to develop as a spiritual unit, this will build stronger communities. This will have a huge impact. This is like, it reveals that healthy families are like this foundational sort of building block. So I think if we're looking at it from that perspective, we want to find what that is within our world, Giving your kids cookies is really family strength. Give your kids cookies. That's exactly the advice that I want to offer right now. Definitely give them cookies. But also you can make them cookies and sneak vegetables into them. Yes, do that as well. Healthy cookies. I was just talking about chatting a bit about how I'm working on a series that's about the family unit. And, I think it's important that we use family as a space to generate morale, right? What is it like to keep the morale of your family up and to have your family as a beacon of hope in the world? I gotta say, it gave me great hope when you were telling me about the game that Asher made up today, where Walmart was the villain and he was like getting the people's money back from Walmart. And sort of his sense of heroicism and his understanding of the authorities and the hegemony that's going on here, and of the way that Walmart has used the pandemic to take money away from the community. He understood this crystal clear, and he developed like a full narrative. He's 5 years old, right? So really.
Yes, he said he was going to battle all the stores.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, what store? He's like, first, I battle Walmart. They're super strong. I take all their money and I give it to my kingdom. So yeah, it's pretty. And we played that game for a while. That was a role-playing game.
Yeah. And this is where, the kids are finding hope, like in their play, right? Like we've noticed our kids processing a lot of the lockdown and the pandemic through their play.
Yes. Same with the mask stuff. It's like, and for Idris too, it's like he's even younger. So it's like, they joke about putting masks on their stuffed animals. And,
yeah. And when we got back from North Carolina, they had a whole bunch of games where they were testing people for the virus to get through into the airport.
Yes.
And where they started mimicking all the checkpoints and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And kids are showing us so much of what we can be doing, right? I know that we could be doing a lot more to get some of this out through play, through art, through creativity, that is a natural way to process and even a way to maintain hope, right? Mm-hmm. I can see that my children are still light and hopeful and, obviously some of this is heavy, but I look at the way that Asher looks to the future. It's really still,
because it's both, right? It's same like me or you or anyone else. Like he has fears too, and his fears are that he'll never be able to go to like a trampoline park again or a play place or to the store to just buy groceries like it was normal before. It was one of his activities. So.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, there is that hope too. There is at least forward thinking. And it's holding the space for both. And I think that's what lifts morale too, is that you can hold the space for it all. Like you can hold the space for your peers, your family, for the lows, for the hopelessness, and for the hope and the feeling that we're moving forward. And it's I feel like that to me boosts morale, like the ability to hold space for both.
And one of the ways that that I have found very helpful with that is really just understanding that hope is something that moves through me, that all of these are things that move through me, right? That it's a practice of I am not that, right? Not this, not that. The idea that these things are temporary. And I've been doing a lot more of that practice of it's very much a dual practice where I am the emptiness, I'm the silence, and that is the thing that is coming and going. And that sort of basic practice really has expanded my ability to do what you're saying, right? To be able to hold space for hopelessness and for hope in the full spectrum of things. And I think that accompanied with, I guess from the family perspective, accompanied with like a lot more focus and talk on like teamwork and like getting through things as a team and like being a unit and like bringing that into the dialogue with the children, and like that we get through things together, that we get through little things together, and like generating that as a sense of morale as well. And that's important in community also. Some people in our community are going to lose hope. They're going to say this was all bullshit. I don't believe any of it. Everything's going to hell. That's it. I give up. We have to hold space for that, right? Like, you know, I've seen a lot. Like, I've seen that, and then I've seen people be like, all these assholes giving up hope already. Screw them. Like, they were fake all along then. And like, you know, it got so heated. But like all these different feelings and reactions and responses need to be experienced for us to move through this. That's what makes it meaningful. Going through that and coming out the other side is the meaning. That's the point. The point is not that we all maintain the same reactions and responses together. It's that we offer space together for whatever everyone needs to move through, and we create peace around that, you know? And so,
yeah, I think, and then because then each person gets to grow as they need to grow.
Yes, exactly.
Because you don't know what that person's learning path is. Yeah.
Hey, Dale. Oh, we miss you too. You guys, you know, just come up to Canada. Just, you know, come here.
Come to Canada.
It's actually don't do that. Don't do that. It's so real here. They're getting so aggressive. God.
I know, they're just threatening us all the time. I don't even know anymore.
I mean, we're living pretty peacefully in our little bubble, like just sort of creating content and doing our thing here. So our family life is relatively like sheltered right now, but we just check in every once in a while, and it's like always threats of like things getting worse and like curfews are coming.
They're building the first what is it called? Like the isolation facility in Brampton, sort of where my parents and my sister and brother live. And I don't even know what that means, but it just sounds threatening. Like,
of course it's threatening. All the legal jargon around it says that they can put you in there for COVID or for anything else. Anything they deem necessary.
It's a detention center now.
It's creepy. It's creep show. It's a big old creep show.
Yeah. It's bad.
Yeah, happy and hopeful are a choice. You know, there is a lot of choice there. It's true. Within that spectrum, it's like I was saying when Amanda was gone, you know, that we have to be making contact with peace. How much are you making contact with peace, with just hopeful content, with hopeful people? You know, nourish yourself. You're not an island. None of us should be feeling like we need to generate hope by ourselves, like try and like pump it out for the world, you know? Like sometimes we need to gather it. Sometimes we do need to go and like generate it from others, or, you know,
or from yourself.
It can really, it can go like,
even when you want it from others and they may not be there for you. That's another one that probably a lot of people have because of the isolation. Yeah. And I definitely don't agree with it because we need human touch and human contact. But on the flip side, I've been realizing, you know, what do I do when someone's not there? How can I have that sense in myself? Yeah. Flipping back and forth.
Yeah, the isolation camps. It's so ridiculous. Like, because Trudeau basically, like, people started freaking out when they saw that these were being built. And he came out and said, like, it's all a lie. And then journalists just went to one. They just went to it and talked to the maintenance people running it. And it was like, okay, so they are real. Anyways, I don't know. Trudeau, good old husk of a man. It always comes back to the husk that is Trudeau.
Yeah, like, it's funny because, you know, we talk about hope, and there's so many people who, you know, find that in Trudeau's words, which is so scary to me.
It's weird. It's very weird.
I guess hollow hope is something, I'm not sure.
Well, you know, hope really, within the world, there really is a lot of hope being placed in Donald Trump. right now. It's like, what was it, Tokyo we were seeing today, that there's like huge demonstrations in Tokyo. There's Tokyo in support of Trump.
Yeah.
And here in Toronto, people hit the streets here in Toronto.
Yes.
And then, of course, the media here tried to twist it. They got a video of a lone man running with like a Trump flag or something, and then said it was one guy. They just lied.
Because I saw photos. There was like traffic jams.
Yeah, there was traffic jams. There was lots of people coming out in support of Trump in the middle of Toronto. And so, all the media tried to pretend it was just one kook, and it's really annoying. But here's the thing. So there's hope. There's a lot of hope being placed in this one man. It's really quite incredible. Like, that it's people around the world, in countries around the world, are biting their fingernails. They're on the edge of their seats. They're like, holy, what is going to happen? I mean, this is really kind of bonkers. And you think about the Global Coherence Initiative. I believe they're the ones who have the measurements of the ionosphere with the random number generators. Or is that the Global Consciousness Project? It's all these interrelated projects through it's HeartMath and I think a Harvard project. Anyways, the point is they have random number generators placed around the Earth, and they have measurements of the Earth's ionosphere. And basically what they were doing is using that, or what they have been doing is using that to measure responses in the Earth to human events. And so what they find is that when there's a human event that a lot of people respond to, there are reactions in the ionosphere and in these random number generators that show that there are like massive spikes at these massive events. So, as an example, when Obama won, they were measuring this. Now, remember at the time that it was like globally people were into Obama. That was a pretty successful campaign in a lot of ways. I remember it being, I was still very much, caught up in a lot more mainstream media than I would be now. But I think it was seen as a hopeful thing. The point is that there was a huge sort of crazy positive response when he won. So there's this big spike. Now you think, now it's many years later, a lot more people are woke to like who Obama really is, what really happened during his presidency, how horrible it was, how much damage it did to America, all this. So you think that was the response. It was a response that was so big that the Earth's ionosphere was humming from people being excited about this. Think of what the response will be on this planet if Trump comes through with all these people around the world holding that hope. It will be a massive, actual energetic pulse around this whole planet because it will be true. Right? The last time that this was measured for a presidency like this.
What if Biden wins? What if Biden's in? What will happen then?
I don't know. It looks different, I guess, in the readings. It looks different because it's about coherence. When you look at HeartMath's work, they say that, it's about coherence, that higher states of gratitude and happiness are more coherent, and that there's a greater interference pattern in lower states, right? Less coherence. So it will be a great wave of incoherence, basically. Chaos, I guess. I don't know. It won't be good. It won't be good.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know. It's very unclear what's going to happen. Like how far they're going to take it. To me, I don't see like a loss of this war. I just don't know how far they're going to allow things to go before action is taken.
Yeah.
Because that precipice is foggy because of the nature of this war. I don't know where that precipice is. I understand where some of the 17 operation alludes to it possibly, but I think that operation is nebulous in terms of timing for operational purposes. I mean, that's obvious to me.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. When it will it happen when he finally stopped wanting it? Maybe.
Yeah.
How much of this is the way we're
being grabby?
I don't know. I don't want to give our power away, right? This idea that we're waiting for the right authorities to do the right thing. We have to be careful with that idea. We have to keep doing like deep inner work, keep releasing what comes up. I mean, I have found it so exciting, I have to say, watching how much my spiritual process has gone along with this the narrative of disclosure. Of like literally I'm going through like deep awakenings as the world is as well. Whoa, this is awesome.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I know. I talk to people every day. It's like, well, what happened for you today?
Yo, it's nuts. It's nuts that as the narratives are blowing up and people are like waking up to what's going on, it's like deep personal things from 15 years ago I'm sorting out, but they're like crucial things to my awakening.
And why wouldn't that be painful?
Yeah, of course.
Why wouldn't that have challenges?
But it's such obvious proof now for me that the internal work is so related to the transformation of the world outside. It's so obvious now, and I'm sure it is for many of you guys. Like, it's so obvious now. And I guess for those of us that have been like doing the work, that had the benefit of understanding some of this narrative beforehand and doing spiritual work in support of this, do have that added vantage point of many narratives, and there is a larger perspective that we have there. And I think that's really, really exciting, being able to be a part of that. I'm so grateful for that. I've been thinking about that I'm just so grateful to be able to cultivate my own awakening along with the world, like consciously, with conscious awareness. To be a part of that is so amazing. I mean, that's crazy galactic shit, where it's like a point in a planet's history where you can be with your own awakening and the awakening of your species. Man, that is so
incredible
cool.
Awareness. Yeah.
It's so cool. I'm so grateful for that. I'm so glad that anyone who's watching
and everyone's here.
Yes. That we're here and we're doing it.
People are here.
Oh man.
It's
so exciting. It's so exciting. And if that's a source of morale for me, but you got to step out of the politics for enough time to find some of those larger perspectives, because that's not going to live within the political narratives. And I think political ideation, political identity should be held lightly right now, because both the Republican and the Democrat Party in the US are undergoing major transformation. Both of those parties are completely transforming right now. So hold your political identity lightly, be ready to transform, to adapt, right? Because that's what's going to be asked of us when we come through this. Our whole idea of politics is going to have to change. Everything's going to have to change. Too. Well, because the system was not working. It was so corrupt. Oh my God.
No, and it wasn't really one or the other.
No, it was never really. That whole thing was theater, which is something that's repeated in, the 17s operation, that really this has always been a social engineering tactic, that left and right wing politics has been. And what is on the other side of that? I don't know. We can't know. We have to be ready to adapt. So hold those political identities lightly right now.
Yeah. Know your truths. Get to know your truths more deeply. Like, that's what I feel called to do. Because then when things change outside of me, I can feel more stable.
Yes, that's what we're going to need. You need that firm inner foundation to arrive. Where we're going to arrive, there's not going to be a lot of footing. It's going to be like really liminal, right? It'll be sort of floaty, I think, almost, to the extent that, we need to be the ones that ground it. We need to be the sort of boots on the ground. Okay. Like, we have enough awareness to start rebuilding, to start, giving it a makeover. As you're saying, it's true. It is. It's true. But not like a freaky one like that show, The Swan.
Oof, yeah.
Like
they cut their faces.
Like a natural, organic, Whole Foods.
Something less violent.
Yes,
if that's possible.
Thank you for the point of energies awakening, cascading. Yeah, I think there does have to be a cascade here. There does have to be some kind of cascade. There's a breaking point to all this. We see it escalating. It's so crazy. What is the breaking point? I don't know. What is the cascade? I mean, we should be ready for the cascade, because, if there's a cascade that is sort of global in its narrative impact, then what are you going to be going through as an individual? If this stuff is matching up, right? we got to be ready for whatever our own little internal cascade is. Maybe. I don't know. But I think there is a great deal of morale to be found in what we're headed towards together, in just how many people are awake in the world. If there are people from countries around the world watching this, just think of the power of that. We're talking about people meditating and praying around the world. That's undeniable. When Mike Pompeo overtly says that he is getting like nonstop calls from leaders from around the world being like, are you guys okay? Are you being taken over by communism? What's going on? He said, and then he follows, or he precedes that with saying there's going to be a transition into a Trump administration. I mean, that's pretty incredible. The firm position he's taking on the Trump administration is incredible, but also that he's just getting so many concerned calls from leaders around the world is very inspiring to me. That's very inspiring to me, because it's this idea that the world is watching. Think about with what kind of eyes are they watching? I think it's with hope. I mean, I think it's with intensity and concern, but it's with support and positivity. And we're in it. We're in it. We are in the war zone while the world watches, and it's crazy. It's nuts. Totally nuts. Oh, yeah. I mean, if people knew, I know it's true. If people really knew the depth of the corruption, the political system, I mean, it kind of does have to dissolve to a certain extent. The depth of the corruption is so, but it's kind of like awakening itself, I think it's, it's sort of like the depth of what we have to go through is so intense. It's so deep. Like what we have to move through as individuals is so deep. And the political system is so shallow. It's so shallow. The whole thing has always been based on like schoolyard arguments,
and,
like silly bullying, and like it's very superficial. Terrible. It's very superficial and shallow. And we have such depth as beings, and so as a society, as a culture, our depth should be reflected even in our politics, right? You can see, why have politics been kept so shallow? Because that's not who we are. We are beings of great depth, and our political world should reflect that depth and that sophistication. So there's something there as well, I would say, in the reformation of it.
Yeah, I think people need to see the politicians fucking up and
going
right now
vacation,
everyone's going on vacation here in Canada. Like,
there's so many politicians getting busted going on vacation here. It's unbelievable.
Like over the holidays, and at best they resign. They resign.
But you know why it doesn't bother me? Because when this all started and they first put the lockdown in, we went on vacation. So I don't care. I mean, it was work.
No, I mean, it's good for people to see their politicians doing the things that they've always done, really, but now it's on display. And, people are starting to question that, I think it is sending a wave of waking up.
Yeah. That was why we felt, confident to do that. And we were like, we looked into it. And I mean, it was for financial reasons. It was supportive for our family. But so much of this is just telling people what to do, even though it's not really legally what's going on. They say you can't do these things, but that's not really always the case for a lot of this. A lot of people don't realize they still have certain rights. They're just listening and doing whatever.
Yeah. I guess that's the kind of fear that people are really saying, like, face that fear. The fear of not questioning them.
Yeah.
That extreme level of fear in that regard. Yeah.
So I guess, as we're moving through this, as we're moving towards whatever this precipice is, this cascade, I don't know, but, how much can we hold that morale and that light into the darkest possibilities here? I mean, how far might this current administration, or this administration that's attempting to insert itself, how far into the system? I mean, I don't know. We have to be ready for whatever darkness is. I think part of the problem is that it has to be beyond our expectations. But that's for the hopeful things as well. You know, I saw a really good post today on Twitter from an account that I'm pretty sure got purged, but it's really that if there's a military movement that ends up being the solution here, that it's going to be in a way that we can't predict. It has to be asymmetrical. And it's so important to remember that we're dealing with asymmetrical warfare here, irregular warfare, and that all of this is going to play out in an irregular way. It has to, because of the nature of the war that we're in. So it's not just a psychological war, but it's a psychological war steeped in irregular and asymmetrical warfare. So all of this has to be outside of the way you think it would happen, because that's how each side is operating to try and, defeat their opponent and overcome the will of their opponent. So there's that aspect of it, but there's also that just represents the spiritual catalyst, that we have to move into the unknown. We have to move into spaces beyond our expectations to grow. That's the only way to grow. It's the only way. If you only arrived within the expected experience, you just wouldn't expand. So how far will we be asked to go with our morale? I don't know. But I feel hopeful, and I am ready to share that hope with anyone who needs it. So anyone feeling that hopelessness, that dread, please reach out. Happy to help. Also, this cat is very hopeful, and I will share this cat's hope with you. Yes.
They're hopeful for attention.
Well, do you have anything else you'd like to add? What's in the diffuser today? Or humidifier,
well, I was really thinking lemongrass, because it sort of purifies and it cuts through things.
Yes. Yes.
And like ego and other things like that. And then I put Douglas fir, marjoram, and juniper berry. And juniper is so good for shadow. And so I feel like it kind of just helps you ease in the shadow a little bit, because there's always that too going on. And the marjoram is so nice for just, feeling, I don't know, caressed, feeling, if you're having some grief, it can be nice.
Like embraced.
Yeah. Some gentleness, and Douglas fir offers stillness and, some nurturing in the stillness, so that you can receive messages from the earth, from the universe. And because when we're doing these things, like thinking about what might be, our body goes to what might be. Like, we know that, right? So if we're thinking about the future, if we're thinking, and it's not that we're not going to not think about the future, that's fine. But then when we want to come back to the present moment, and Douglas fir is so good for that. So I like the combination was really nice for me for those reasons. So that's what's in the diffuser tonight. Very nice. Yeah, very nice. It's so good. It's a really nice combination. I want to aromatically dress with it, I think, too. But anyway. Yeah.
Great. Well, lots of love to everyone. Thank you for joining us. Love. Thanks
everyone.
Yeah. Thanks
so
for
nice.
the great chats. We'll be back next week with another good resonance session. And
maybe this cat.
Probably this cat. Richard purrs. Oh, yes. You have a request that you supports Jace and or Alexis in being their aromatherapist queen.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, you should do that. Yes, absolutely. Amanda has lovely skills with wellness consultation, and oh man, this lady knows so many things.
I know some things.
Well, you absorb a lot of information.
I want to know what you know too.
Ooh, yes, true. Yes, definitely. Definitely check out Amanda's offerings. The link is in the description of this video.
Awesome, guys.
Yes, the cat does need a hug. I'll give you a big hug in a second. All right, well, lots of love, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.